Welcome to Connect, Curate, Create, where we're on a journey through the arts and creative industries. I'm your host, Dr. Tim Butcher. If you're anything like me, you love learning about art and creativity. In each episode, I ask artists and creatives how they navigate life, work, and more besides. They generously share their stories and offer invaluable insights that you and I can put into action. As the author of Creative Work Beyond Precarity, I blend my mission to give artists a fair go with my academic smarts, to ask the questions that draw out lessons we can all learn from.
It was always what I definitely wanted to do, but I wanted a stable kind of income on the side, so I thought pharmacy was a good way to support that, and the plan was always to make it to a point where I'd be doing music full-time, which is where I finally am now, which is lovely. I think being an artist, particularly working from home and having a fairly flexible structure at the moment, it's funny, sometimes getting to the piano can be the hard part when there's so many other competing priorities. But as soon as I'm there, it's just, yeah. The other thing about music, I guess, is how you can express different emotions without, particularly solo piano, not having words. There's a lot of different emotions that you can put into it that might be hard to put into words, and different people can take different things from it, and it can be almost therapeutic in some ways. So, yeah, that's another side of my composition that I really enjoy.
In this episode, I talk with Frances Cameron, a composer-pianist based in Launceston, Tasmania. Frances shares with us the joy she finds in her creative process, how she learned to embrace her freedom in music making, and how she now shares her passion in various ways. Frances offers insights into how composition can be an embodied process inspired by the rhythms of life, that making music needn't be a solitary pursuit, and how sustaining community connections opens up possibilities. Be sure to also check out the show notes for highlights and links that you can use to shape your own journey. If you learned something from this episode, follow us on your favourite podcast app and tell your friends about Connect, Curate, Create. Welcome back to the podcast. It is a lovely, sunny winter's afternoon. Almost feels like spring already. Here in Launceston, Tasmania. And once again, I have been invited into an artist's studio. Today I am here with Frances Cameron, composer, pianist. Frances, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me in the studio here. And behind me here is your grand piano, which is just so inspiring. So I'm sure that will prompt lots of questions for me. Yeah, and lots to talk about. We met about a year ago now, a little under a year ago, at the event that Susan Eldridge led, that was run by the TSO, around being an entrepreneur in the creative industries. So Susan was was in season 1 of the podcast, and a real inspiration. And so yeah, you and I met then. We first encountered each other then, but since then we've kept in touch, and I found out a little bit more about what you're doing with your work and where you're taking it. And I just think that there's a wonderful story here to share with everyone. So before we get to where you are today, we probably should go back a bit. So being a composer, pianist, where did it all begin?
A very long time ago now, actually. So I started piano lessons when I was 5 and just fell in love with it. We moved around a little bit, and when we moved to Tasmania, which is where we're from originally, my piano teacher was just absolutely amazing. She let us choose whatever music we wanted to play. She would play them for us in our lessons, and we'd get to select the ones that we really loved, and just sparked a lifelong love of music. So yeah, that's really what set me off on this path.
Oh, wow. So you're really just empowered to play.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And yeah, she was just great fun too, and always made up stories to go along with the pieces. So we'd get really creative and imagine images, which actually ties into what I'm doing now with a bit of film composing. So yeah, tying visuals and imagination into the music was a really big part of the storytelling of them.
Oh, wow. Wow. And is this the teacher that I've met, Meg?
Yes, it is. Meg Blackley.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I was saying to Francis before that some friends of mine invited me to breakfast one weekend at a place not too far from here, and just got talking to the owners, and Meg, one of the owners, funnily enough, your name came up, Francis, and we got talking. So I can, having met Meg, I can understand that how inspiring those lessons would have been.
Yeah, they were definitely the highlight of my week.
So after those childhood lessons, where did you take your music from there?
So after I finished school, I did my associate diploma when I was in high school on piano. And then I moved to Melbourne and studied a couple of other degrees. And while I was studying, I was doing music on the side. But my contact hours at uni were about 38 hours a week. So it didn't leave a huge amount of time. But I did accompany our college choir and play in the musicals and, just kept involved with it and had some lessons at the con up there, so private lessons through some of the piano teachers there, which was really great. Lovely people there and really well skilled, but moved around quite a lot, which made it hard to lug a piano around, but I locumed around Australia and worked in Fiji for a couple of years, so obviously it was a bit hard to access a piano over there, but I did learn ukulele and joined a band and played in a festival and learned the log drums and made some really lovely friends and had fun in different musical ways.
Yeah, I suppose that's it, right? You're an artist, you're a musician, and whilst as you say, it's difficult to lug a piano around with you, you'll always find a way to practice.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you see your music? Was it always just something on the side, or was it something that you'd come back to?
It was always what I definitely wanted to do, but I wanted a stable kind of income on the side. So I thought pharmacy was a good way to support that, and the plan was always to make it to a point where I'd be doing music full time, which is where I finally am now, which is lovely.
Yeah. Oh, great. So yeah. Look, I can understand that. I guess I as regular listeners know, I never really pursued my art until now. So there will be many people in the world who would have always sort of carried it with them, as to use that metaphor that we were using before, but never perhaps come back to it. So I often see this podcast as a way for people just like me to find inspiration from people like you, Francis, to come back to it. So now, did you say a log drum?
Yes.
What's a log drum?
It's an instrument in Fiji. It's a big, probably just over 1 metre long, often longer, wooden drum with a slit through the middle, and you use a stick to make all sorts of different noises off it. But yeah, I just had a little bit of fun with a lovely music group over there who offered that as one of their instruments that you could learn. So I thought, why not?
So wherever you've been, you've found other musicians, a community. How does that come about for you?
I just really like getting involved in community music groups. So often there'll be advertising or there'll be some kind of connection. Someone will find out that you love music and you get started talking, and then they're often very inviting and welcome you in to take part in rehearsals. So
you have these wonderful encounters and come together to make music, to practice, to get inspired by each other, I suppose. So what does that sort of sense of community mean to you? Perhaps, if you could illustrate what an experience might be like for those of us who don't necessarily encounter that so often?
Of course, I'll actually share a local recent example. So, my mother-in-law is part of the Intermezzo string ensemble, which rehearses here in Launceston, and there's also the LICO, Launceston Youth and Community Orchestra, which rehearsal back straight onto that. So, as they're on semester break at the moment, they had 2 open rehearsals, and I went along to one of them. Took my flute, which I haven't played in a while, but it was great fun to be involved in. Just the sense of community. It's really joyful, and everyone's there having a go and supporting each other and just having a great time. So I think it's that aspect of coming together as a group of people who love music and just having fun.
Yeah, because with music, I guess there'll be familiar songs, tunes, things that, but then I guess there's a certain amount of I'll use the word riffing. Am I right? Is that a do you bounce off each other? How does it what's the vibe?
It depends on the group. So that one was an orchestra with quite strictly notated music, but then your expression, you can riff off each other for that. And the conductor was having fun trying to ham up different sections as a kind of just experimenting with different dynamics or tempos. But I'm also part of Launceston Improvised Music Association, and that is completely unscripted, and it's just no music, a bunch of instruments. You're encouraged to play something you've never tried before on the spot with different combinations of people you may or may not know. So it's very riffing off each other in that one.
Yeah, wow.
That one's on break at the moment for winter, but it is held at Sawtooth, the Ari.
Oh, is that the Sunday afternoons?
Yes, it is the Sunday afternoons. Have you been?
I used to be involved with Sawtooth, and it was always something that I never got to, but I was very well aware of it. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, I'm not surprised it's on break, because whilst it is lovely and sunny here, it's still a bit chilly, particularly down at Sawtooth.
Once the sun goes down, yes.
Yeah. No, but you see, myself not having a musical background, not really understanding what goes on when you get together, and then also how many different alternatives that there would be to practice. But you yourself, what you've alluded to is that it's not just the piano that you play. So you've mentioned the flute and the log drum, and then I guess there are other instruments that you play. So it's not just necessarily about a particular instrument or a particular practice. It's music more generally. It's something that is deeply embedded in your life.
Yeah. When I was at school, we were encouraged to play an instrument that you could be involved in groups like the orchestra or the concert band. So for piano, that wasn't an option. So I took up flute a long time ago as well. And I do really enjoy that group music making, which is a bit less accessible with the piano. But I would still say that piano is definitely my strongest pull to music. I really love it, and there's something just gets me in a different world when I play it. So, but in terms of community groups, I find it's been really fun to have other instruments. And
yeah. So that would be a complement to your core practice at the piano. So you said it takes you into a different space, a different world. Where does it take you?
I just find with solo piano, especially when I'm composing, it's very freeing, and in some ways you're quite isolated, but I don't mind that. I think it's a bit meditative, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. And when did composition sort of become part of your practice?
A lot later on. Being classically trained, you are often encouraged to follow the music and not really experiment too much. I know a lot of people do jazz on the side or other improvisations, but I just loved the repertoire so much. I guess it didn't leave a huge amount of time to explore other sides of the piano. But then traveling around so much and not having as much access, when I did get back to the piano, I just started improvising and really loved it and found it was, I guess, a lot more accessible than trying to get repertoire of a higher standard up to concert level. That takes quite a lot of diligent practice, and if you only have a few hours here and there for the piano, I actually just found that making my own music, which wasn't quite as technical, suited me better, and I actually found it a bit more fulfilling for what I was looking for at the time.
Yeah. This was something that Susan talked about in her episode. Was about the discipline of being in a classical orchestra, and the dynamics in that space. So yeah, I can. I'm sure listeners who heard that episode can appreciate what you're saying. That opportunity to be creative is something you could really only explore on your own. I suppose what I'm really, really, really interested in is, like, where do you even begin? So, like, you said that you didn't use the word playing around. You used a different term, but I'll just use that because I've forgotten what you said. But you're here on your own at the piano, and you just start playing. Or how do you even begin a composition, a new piece of music?
Often I just get melodies in my head, especially if I'm in motion, if I'm in car rides or running. There's something about moving scenery, particularly beautiful Tasmanian nature, that inspires me. And so when I sit down at the piano, there's already a lot of ideas in my head. But after playing for so long as well, there's kind of a connection with how your hands feel on the piano and what those sounds make that's almost intuitive. So I guess when I sit down, I kind of know what I'm feeling, and then my hands, it sounds a bit strange to say it, but my hands kind of know how to make that happen. Yeah. So sometimes I just follow that. I usually have a pencil and a score pad, and I actually notate by hand, but I will experiment with those positions. Sometimes they're a little bit off. I don't have perfect pitch, so occasionally it won't be exactly what I'm hearing that I'm playing, but sometimes you find happy accidents and it actually sounds better, so I really enjoy that process.
Yeah. So it's not just sitting tapping your fingers at the piano waiting for something to come. Your inspiration is coming from your everyday life.
Yeah, especially travel, I would say.
Yeah. I did see an Instagram post you put out last week, I think, where you said how you're inspired by the natural landscape, by being in a moving car, passing through beautiful landscape like we have here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And so those rhythms will. Is it the rhythms? They'll just come to you, and they'll carry through, and you'll bring them back into the studio.
I'd say it's more, I guess, the motion, especially if you're in a vehicle which has got some kind of drone almost in the background. That kind of, I guess, provides the rhythmic base, and then I'll get melody ideas that kind of come through. But it seems that I have a lot of melody ideas, so I've never really, touch wood, to date, I haven't had an issue with feeling like I'd sit down at the piano and try and force something. It would just be maybe something different comes out to what I'm expecting. But I do find it's pretty intuitive, and I just love it. So
yeah, and that's the thing. I'm probably asking questions about that are perhaps overthinking it. It's sort of like you've already alluded to the fact that it's not a thought process. It's a completely embodied, intuitive process. It's something that comes through. So, as you say, that drone of the car engine, then the things that are those sounds, the motion. It's going to play into your body, and then you're in that zone. You're in that space when you come back, and yeah, right,
definitely.
And there'll be, I guess, would there be like a break? Like you might come home, make a cup of tea, and then sit at the piano. So there's a memory element to that as well. Would there be?
Yes. Sometimes if it's a really strong melody and I'm concerned about potentially losing it, I'll sing it into my voice notes. But most of the time, at least the essence of it will be there. And then, as I said, sometimes when you're capturing that, other things come out that are actually potentially more to your taste. So I'm yeah, I'm happy to let some through to the keeper and see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, sure. No, and yeah, so then, just embracing what emerges as well. Yeah, wonderful. I mean, it just sounds like such a beautiful flow state that you must get into when you're making music.
Definitely. I think being an artist, particularly working from home and having a fairly flexible structure at the moment, it's funny. Sometimes getting to the piano can be the hard part when there's so many other competing priorities. But as soon as I'm there, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great segue, because I did say we are in your studio, and thank you for giving me the comfy chair as well.
You're welcome.
So on my right is your computer, and on my left, slightly behind me, is your grand piano. But then right in front of me, behind you, is your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you sort of balance that everyday life, home life, with having, so so I grew up with, just I give a bit of context here. So my mum taught music and played many instruments, and we had a baby grand in the lounge room, which she would teach students in the early evenings, and we kids would be sent off upstairs to our bedrooms out of the way. So we always had music in our lives. I tried and failed, but it was always a delicate balance, and for Mum to find a quiet time and a quiet space to then play for herself, to actually use that beautiful instrument in a space that was a family space. I can imagine that it must be difficult to carve out the time and space, or not.
It depends. If I've got a deadline, I'm pretty good with sticking to it, be that a concert or a release that I'm working towards, or another project or a collaboration. But if it's a project without deadlines that is just for myself, then it can be hard to prioritise that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I had an image come into my mind then about just the place of the piano in the home. So there would be many people who grow up with a piano in their home, and so a member of the family plays, and it's part of the furniture, but there would have been a time long before television and radio and the internet that was the form of entertainment in the home. So is it something you play for pleasure here with the family?
Definitely. We actually don't have a TV. I'm not sure if you noticed, but we both prefer, I guess, more active entertainment. So I really love playing, and luckily my husband likes listening, so that works well for me. He'll often be doing something else while I'm playing in the background. My dogs, unfortunately, though, they are singers. Which is fine if I'm rehearsing, but if I'm composing, it can be a little distracting.
That's why they've gone for a walk now.
Yes.
I see. Oh well, look, thanks for sharing. Hopefully it helps listeners to visualize where we're at, and just how important your practice is to you. So you mentioned deadlines, preparing to do work. So what have you been working on recently?
A few things. Last month, actually 2nd of July, I submitted 2 scores for AFTRS students. AFTRS is the Australian Film, Television and Radio School in Sydney, and I did a short course there last year and kept in touch. So a couple of the second-year students sent through some of their documentaries this term for me to score. So that was great.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, I really enjoyed working on that. And as I said, I do find a lot of inspiration from visuals. So having these quite diverse projects to work on, it just puts you in a slightly different space and comes up with music that, it's just something different to what I usually write, which I enjoy.
Yeah. No, it's I I myself making short films and how important that soundtrack is, how important the score is, rather. Sorry. Yeah, no. So that's an interesting one. So how do they? Yeah, how do they finance that? If I can ask.
So for that one, because I had done a short course there and I was happy to be involved, they were non-paid.
Oh,
But,
okay.
as I said, I really enjoy the process, and it's works that I can use myself too. I can still perform those or publish as sheet music. So there's potentially other sources of revenue from that if I needed it. But yeah, it's more of a side project. So.
Yeah, so there are so many potential value creation possibilities that come out of it. Yeah, no, sorry. I mean, a lot of the time we don't like to talk too much about finance, but for me it just came up but again it speaks to your sensibility around community and these interactions. So you went to do a short course, you've stayed in touch, and then these things flow on from that, and I think that's something that perhaps not a lot of us appreciate about working in the arts is very much that the being open to a possibility. Yeah, and I did see some of your work. You pointed me to it, actually. I think the last time we met in person, and I made a point of going to QV Mag, the local art museum, to see a collaborative exhibit that you'd made. Would you share that with us?
Yes, of course. So my friend, another local composer, Ian Chia, was making the soundtrack for Soma Lumier's interactive installation and asked if I'd like to co-compose with him. So that was great fun. We also had dancers involved from stomping. So I was able to attend the rehearsals and see the dancers responding to my music while we were also still creating more music. So that was pretty inspiring and, again, provoked a different style of composition. It was in both the galleries in Inveresk and Royal Park for a number of months and is now in their permanent collection. So
terrific.
Will be out again in future. And it was interactive so that participants who went into the spaces would be projected their image onto the screens, but in a particle kind of form. So it was de-identified, as were the dancers that we'd recorded who would appear on the side screen. So it was a 3-screen work with the centre being projected of the participant and then the side screens being the dancers we recorded. So you could kind of respond to their motion. But if someone went into the Inveresk gallery at the same time, they would be projected instead, and you could interact live with participants from both sides. So that was pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those listeners who are not here in Launceston, there's quite a distance. There's at least a kilometre as the crow flies between these two sites, and they're two very different sites as well. So yeah, I hadn't appreciated that. I went along. I was between meetings, and went to the Inveresk Museum, and just stuck my head around the curtain because there was some kids in there interacting with the art at the time, and they were having the best time. And I thought that was a wonderful thing. So again, back to, I guess we're sort of back to this idea of flow and emergence. You know, it's just sort of you've co-created this piece of work that could lead anywhere, and then this interaction between different sites and different people who are experiencing this one thing at the same time. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So many layers to that I hadn't even appreciated by just sticking my head around the curtain. Yeah, maybe I need to revisit that the next time it's back on show.
I'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah, please do. But that's not the only thing that you've been working on. I mentioned your recent Instagram posts, and there's been a few of them recently, because you've been sharing some exciting news.
Thank you. Yes, releasing my debut album at the moment in what's called a waterfall release. So it's where you release one track at a time, and every fortnight I will have a piece coming out from now until the 22nd of November. So,
Oh, awesome.
yeah.
So how many pieces would that be in total?
It's 12.
12. Okay, yeah. It's just 12 weeks until November.
Well, there's been a few out already, so it's less than that.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's every fortnight, though, so
Sorry.
double.
Okay. That's a very contemporary way to be releasing music, I understand.
It is often recommended now with how people digest music and just how much is released on streaming platforms. It helps prevent, I guess, some of your tracks getting lost. So there's more chance of them being potentially picked up on a playlist or actually just being listened to, because it will go in, people who follow you say, it will go into their release radar. And so, it's just encouraged. But I quite like delivering it like that anyway.
Yeah.
And as you said, I have been posting a bit more than I usually would on socials to promote that, which is probably good for me because I'm giving a bit more of a story behind both my music and my practice and myself, which is probably a good thing to do. As I said, I like having a community, and sharing more of that story might help people see what I'm doing and what's behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of the album is?
It's called Piano for Dreaming.
Yeah.
Because actually a couple of my close friends who live in Melbourne, they mentioned that they really love listening to my music to help them sleep, because I really enjoy creating peaceful, calm music, particularly when I was busy working in healthcare. It was nice to come back and have kind of a relaxing outlet. So when they said they like to play my music overnight, I thought, maybe I should create music for relaxation or even sleep and call it Piano for Dreaming.
Yeah, lovely. I did think about putting it on in the car this morning driving in, but thought better of it. It's absolutely. It's for a certain time and place, and I very much enjoyed listening to some of your early releases.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's so you were inspired to make this music for a certain activity, should we say? So it's a peaceful listen. And what's your process in leading up to that? We talked a little bit about how you compose, but timeline and how long's this been in process?
I wrote most of the works in October last year.
Yep.
And then I debuted them via a live performance at Mona in March on Piano Day. So that was great fun. And I'm recording, mixing and mastering them all myself. So that means, as I said, there's not a huge time pressure other than that I will be releasing one every 2 weeks. But because of that, that has freed me up to do other side projects that come up, which I've really enjoyed. And I've made a few connections as well who are really experienced with mixing and mastering. So some of them have suggested additional plugins. So I've been learning some more software and tweaking different parameters as I've been going, which has been great to learn and hear the results as I'm going.
Oh, great. Yeah, I could learn some things from you, I reckon. It's not a core skill of mine. But so I guess that leads to the question of, do you enjoy that side of making music? Is it something, the mixing and mastering, it's a whole body of work to do that, usually you would be working with somebody for them to really lead that. But, what inspires you to do that yourself?
There's a few things. One, it gives you a lot more control, particularly if you don't have a time frame, then you can continue tinkering on something until you get the exact quality you're after. Artistically, there are a lot of choices, particularly with piano recording, how much pedal noise you want, what kind of reverb, just microphone position, and doing it yourself gives you the time and the space to experiment and then even make two different masters and just let it sit for a bit and see what vibe you actually want for that. So it, I guess, lets you create all these different opportunities for yourself and then, have the time and space to choose without the cost, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and traditionally it would have involved equipment that wouldn't be easy to have in your home studio, and would be very specialist, to operate. So the accessibility of these new digital resources, I suppose, it really opens it up for.
Definitely. That does remind me of one other thing I'd meant to say. So I really love my piano, and pianos are quite a unique instrument, and mine has its, own voice. And having composed on it, I wrote the pieces in response to how it sounded too, and how it sounded in this space. So if you go into a studio, the piano, particularly for a solo piano album, is such a huge part of the sound. It is the sound. So I guess that's the other thing if I had decided to outsource, I would have wanted someone to come to my studio to do that. And I thought, well, with timings, it was something that I'd just do myself this time around.
Yeah, that's really. I mean, that's a really beautiful thing to think about, and something that I've wanted to ask and not found an opportunity to ask. But so yeah, you've got mics set up here with over the strings in the piano, and it's very evocative as an image walking into your studio, but also it is draped by in Australia we call them doonas, duvet covers. I forget what they're called elsewhere in the world, but tell us about this. What it looks like a child's camp with a grand piano in the middle of it. That's what I'm thinking. Tell us all about it.
Yes, I was in two minds whether to take them down before you came, but
no. I think it's wonderful.
Yes, well, my husband rigged up this insulation system for me when we moved. There's quite a bit of glass and not hugely insulated roof, which was coming through in the recordings. So to improve the tone, he built this structure so that I could suspend. It's actually proper sound insulation bats inside the duvet covers. But so he's developed, there's another one that is we take down when I'm not actively recording, but I'll bring that out. So it does have four sides and a roof to it. So it, I guess, just softens the environment and provides a better acoustic for me and reduces noise bleed from outside, which is pretty helpful when I'm recording.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, we live in the creator age, and I myself, as a digital creator, I scroll Instagram and I get all these things trying to sell me stuff like soundproofing and so on. But actually, this is really inventive and really imaginative and really beautiful to look at as well. So it must really make for, just this warm, cozy space in which for you to make.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. And actually, when it's got the fourth wall on it, it does kind of block out your surroundings. So it puts the blinkers on a bit, which helps you get in the zone a bit, even if there's other things to attend to in the kitchen.
Very good. Very good. Now, I'm composing. Terrific. Terrific. Oh, wow. Let's get back to the album. So it's been released, the Waterfall. Sorry, the term's new to me, but I understand it because as a consumer of music, I'll get drip fed these tracks through Apple Music or whatever I'm using, and I can understand what you've just explained to me why this is occurring. So what I was thinking before when you were telling me about this was when you said you wrote it all last October, and so you write it as a body of work, and then it's released as a waterfall over an extended period of time. So how does that all hang together? So for me as a listener, do you think, would you like for me to, come the end of November, I've got all the tracks. Should I be listening front to back or?
I have designed it so that it does flow best front to back, but I mean, different people have very different aesthetics. So if there's certain tracks that someone really enjoys, I'm just as happy for them to select the ones they want. There's a couple of companion pieces. So there's a lament and a consolation, which are designed to be back to back. But again, if people prefer a different order or make their own playlists or combine it with other music that they like to intersperse it with, if they're listening to my music, I'm very happy. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm showing my age here because obviously I grew up with vinyl records, and there's a limitation in that technology in that you place the needle on the record, and you play from the start to the finish. And so, yeah, I like some of the great albums that I would have listened to as a young person, much younger person, would have been. Even if it was on a different format, I wouldn't necessarily have been skipping through. But it's funny, actually. I said I almost put your music on in the car today, and I put something else on that would have been from that era, and I found myself skipping. So how we consume music today is really interesting. So how do you factor that in as a composer?
I usually don't. Well, I don't really factor that in. I write what I want artistically, and then at this stage in my career, hope that resonates with people, and know that people can skip if they want to. But what's coming out at the moment is, just solo piano tracks that I love and hope other people enjoy, and hopefully I find an audience.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Any artist, it's about making the thing you love, putting it out into the world, and let others make their own interpretation, draw their own meaning from it. Yeah,
Definitely. And I think, authenticity is really important. And as I said, this is my style. And I think not everyone will appreciate that, but the people who do, I'm happy with that. The other thing about music, I guess, is how you can express different emotions without, particularly solo piano, not having words. There's a lot of different emotions that you can put into it that might be hard to put into words, and different people can take different things from it, and it can be almost therapeutic in some ways. So, that's another side of my composition that I really enjoy.
Yeah. No, I would encourage listeners to download and listen. Thank
you.
Yeah, no, I as I say, I really enjoyed what I've listened to so far, and I look forward to more. So that's we're up to date. What's next?
Well, I've already started writing the music for a follow-up album because I can't stop myself. But so there'll be more music next year with that. And I just found out this week that I was selected for Elevate Enterprises 12-week course for startup founders. I've got a interactive music idea that I would like to get off the ground, and looking forward to seeing what I can do with it out of this experience.
Oh, wonderful. So interactive music idea. Obviously, you're a startup founder. I don't want to delve too deeply, and I'm sure the program that you go through over the next 12 weeks will be it'll all come out in the wash, as they say. But is it taking you back to? Is it sort of about learning? Is it so as an interactive music experience? What would be the aim of that?
Its aim is to make composition accessible to whoever wants to be involved, I guess, through a facilitated experience with no prior knowledge required, and hoping to reduce barriers. There's a lot of people who would never get the opportunity to be involved in that if they weren't supported and made to feel included. So, it's very early stages at the moment, but looking forward to developing that, and hope to provide something that can be really inclusive, engaging, and joyful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, joyful is such an important word here. I grew up with the sound of the piano resonating through the house, and the joy that it brought my mum, and the joy it brought us as a family, and the joy that you've really shared with us here so far. But there's also that question that, even though I had all that joy in my life, I still wouldn't be able, I ask those questions about how do you begin composing? And so I guess what you're building is going to address that for people just like me.
That's what I'm hoping.
Awesome. Awesome. I could be your first client.
Ooh, well, keep in touch.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, that sounds really exciting, Frances.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed talking to you this afternoon. It's, as I say, it's just wonderful to be invited into anyone's studio. But yours is absolutely unique. Your practice is quite special, and your music is beautiful. So, look, I really thank you so much for inviting me over.
Thank you, Tim. It's been great to chat.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect, Curate, Create. I hope you found inspiration and insights that you can apply to your own creative work. For highlights and links, check out the show notes, and be sure to follow us on your favourite podcast player so you never miss an episode. Tune in next time as I continue to explore life and work in the arts.